Biology instructor had just finished a lecture on mental health and was giving an oral test. Speaking specifically about manic depression, she asked the class, "Now, how would you diagnose a patient who walks back and forth screaming at the top of his lungs 1 minute and then sits in a chair weeping uncontrollably the next?" She waited with expectation. A young man in the back of the class raised his hand and answered, "A basketball coach?" March Madness is an epic college basketball tournament for both the men's and women's teams across our country. It's called March Madness because, of course, it takes place in March, and there is a bit of madness to it that takes over the sports world due to the number of teams and the games involved, and due to the fact that there's a lot of fan involvement. The experience begins with an announcement day, which will take place 2 weeks from today. And on that day, we will find out which 67 college teams will be playing in 68 single elimination games over 21 days. Now, some of you have already had your eyes glaze over and you're no longer listening to anything I'm saying. Come back to me. Come back to me. There are great life lessons to learn from the March Madness experience, I promise. Now, one of the ways that fans get involved in March Madness is through the use of a bracket. And I don't mean a bracket that holds things together. I mean a tournament bracket, where all of the games are scheduled and planned out in an elimination sequence, which culminates in a championship game. When the teams are announced, the game bracket is revealed, and everyone goes a little nuts over filling out their bracket and predicting which teams will win each of the games. So here is the 2019 bracket after the games were all completed. Now, I don't like to brag, but I kind of have a fail-safe way of picking the winning teams. I just go through the bracket and I select teams based on the color of their uniforms, which of course I call costumes. Now, if the team's costume is to my liking, I pick that team as the winner. Now, my youngest son goes crazy with my approach to filling out a bracket because he knows all the stats and all the players and all the teams, and yet my bracket is often more successful than his. With each round of play, people compare and talk about the success of their brackets and with their friends and with their associates. And because of the brackets, fans get heavily invested in the tournament. They often stay up late at night to watch their teams play. And I love it. Why do I love it so much? Well, I grew up watching basketball with my father and my brother, but this whole experience is a huge spiritual lesson. Yes, it is a spiritual experience filled with hope and promise and tenacity and spirit and grit and winners and losers and upsets and integrity and Cinderella stories. But I'm getting a little ahead of myself. Let's look at just a few of those crucial points this morning. In the beginning, everything is beautiful. As you take your pencil and begin to fill in the bracket, or your finger as you fill in the bracket electronically, every team is a possible winner. Every team is filled with promise and hopes and dreams. Any team on the page could become the final winner. How amazing is that? Now, obvious to any of us who have ever watched or played a basketball game, we know that basketball is a demanding sport that requires many skills from those who play it. Skills like athletic ability and fitness, hard work and determination, mental and emotional stability, the ability to play on a team, the ability to pay attention to detail, the ability to get in and stay in the game. So this morning, my contention is that, except for the athleticism required, those are all skills that we all need in our everyday life. Therefore, I've reached the conclusion that the sport of basketball is a wonderful model for a successful life. Let's zoom in on a few of those skills that I just mentioned, and let's see how these skills actually play a part in our daily non-athletic lives. Playing on a team is something that doesn't always come naturally to each of us. In school settings, teachers always encounter students who refuse to work with the group. They prefer to work alone. They have learned somewhere along the way that they can't depend on other people to get their work done. They can't trust other people on the team. So they prefer to do all of their work all by themselves, alone. But basketball, like the rest of life, is not a solo sport. NBA's all-time scorer Kareem Abdul-Jabbar once said, "One man can be a crucial ingredient on a team, but one man cannot make a team." Having a team that can pass the ball, get around opponents, and execute a successful completion of the play is an absolute necessity on the basketball court as well as in our lives. I've said this several times. We can't do this life alone. We need other people. I've said it before, and I will say it again. Now, there's an element of alertness that is also required in a basketball player. The basic skill of dribbling, keeping the ball under control while moving down the court, is paramount to success on the court. Players have to stay awake and alert while being able to multitask, as well as stay focused on the game. They can't get distracted by other issues. Having the self-control to stay focused is the key to success on and off the basketball court. When a coach yells from the sidelines, "Get in the game," I think that coach means get your head in the game. The coach says, "Get in the game," after a player makes a careless shot or misses a rebound. Any number of things that causes the coach to believe that the player was not keenly alert on the court. So let's apply that idea to our daily lives. How many times have you been in your car, driving to a destination, and your mind drifts off? And when you come back to reality, you look around and you realize where you are, and maybe you already passed your destination. Or maybe you're already back home and in your garage, and you were supposed to stop and pick up milk, and you didn't do it. There are a multitude of ways that we drift through our day not in the game. Getting our head in the game means mental toughness, mental alertness, and awareness. According to Celtics legend Bill Russell, concentration and mental toughness are the margins of victory. Let's consider just 2 reasons why we might lose our mental toughness and drift off from the task at hand. Well, we often lose focus because of anger. During a game, a basketball player might be angry because the team is behind, or maybe a player is angry at himself or herself because the shot was missed that they just took off the court. Our anger can distract us as we drift off into replaying the scene of that last argument. Or we start thinking about what we should have said. And then we get angry because we didn't say that, and oh boy, that would have been a much better thing to say. Yeah, that's what I should have said. I wish I had said that. And then we look up and we realize that we have drifted out of the conversation at the restaurant table. We realize that we are grimacing at everyone around us, and they are not in our heads, and they don't know why. We're angry. We get lost in our anger because we are not in the moment. We are too busy regretting the past and feeling mad. A player may also lose focus because he or she is trying to figure out who to blame for whatever's going on. Many players are not mentally tough, so they make excuses. An athlete who blames other people for causing all of the problems in the game or on the team and never owns his or her part in the problem is an athlete that no one wants to be around. So too, an individual who blames other people for every misfortune or error is an individual that other people don't really want to hang out with. There's something so admirable about owning our part in the mess, about telling the truth to others and to ourselves about what we've done. It helps us in the future to make a plan for not continuing to be part of the problem. Finally, the skill of bouncing back and getting up after falling down or failing. Boy, that seems to happen a lot in a basketball game. A player literally falls down and his teammate reaches out a hand and helps him back up. The team gets down a few points, and so the whole team rallies, and then they even the score. A player gets injured, so she goes to the bench for a few minutes, and a team member comes in to step in her place and finish the game. This skill is used multiple times in just one basketball game. Bouncing back and getting up after falling down or failing is a major life event, and it's universal. We have all experienced that. We just take a lot longer to rebound than basketball players do. In our lives, recovering from our failings and getting back up doesn't happen automatically, and it doesn't happen quickly. We struggle to make sense of it all. We take time to heal before we venture back into the game. But this ability to rise back up, to try it again, to get back on the horse after falling off, to stay the course, even when the course is most difficult and the obstacles seem insurmountable. Well, that's just excellent basketball playing. And truly, that is just excellent living. In a few weeks, the games will begin. I encourage us to experience this year's March Madness with new eyes. As we fill out our brackets, let's consider the costumes. As we watch the games, may we find the spiritual in the sport. May we clearly see the hope and the promise and the tenacity and the grit. Let's admire the athletes' skills as they play. Let's pay attention to those Cinderella stories, those little teams that rise up and surprise everyone, those unlikely winners and champions. Let's watch the teams get back up and recover from their mistakes and their failings. May we see ourselves in this experience. May we find ways to relate our lives to this unbelievable sport called basketball. And most of all, may we remember our own tenacity, reminding ourselves of what we have overcome in our lives, the obstacles that have threatened our success, but over which we have found the ability and the strength to rise. Amen. As we close our time together this morning, let's remember that when we have fallen and we are struggling to get back up, we are never alone. God is with us, right beside us. There is a beautiful verse in the book of Micah that encourages us with these words. Don't gloat over me, my enemy. I'm down, but I'm not out. I'm sitting in the dark right now, but God is my light. Have a great Sunday and go in peace. Amen.